Hello, my name is Serrano Keith Baldio, and welcome to the Texas Justice Review. Today, our focus is on Justice Dennise Garcia. If you love the legal system and you love its corruption and incompetence, you're going to love this show. So, Justice Garcia here, today we're going to try to disrobe her from her position under Chief Justice, under Justice Court of Appeals in Dallas. She wanted to be the chief judge of the court system. Now, what the chief judge does is they govern all the other judges that you go before. If you go before a judge, your family member goes before a judge, friends, whoever, if they make a bad ruling on law, not on I didn't like the decision. Because I've learned a long time now that decisions to the appeals court where she's sitting has to be based on that there was some kind of procedural or illegal decision made against the standing law or a case law. Can't be because I just didn't like the judge's decision. It has to be a legal decision. So I had Justice Garcia here removed from two cases, well, one case that I had, which was actually two cases. And, I tell you, these judges run for positions and they absolutely have no idea how to run the law, how to focus on the law. So that's why I'm here. So I want to take you to let's show what she did first. So this is her decision. And her decision is, I voluntarily recuse myself from hearing any matter involving Keith Baldio as a party. So I had her removed. And the reason that I did that is because you're supposed to know the law as a judge. And if you don't know the law and you don't know how to apply the law, this becomes a big problem for citizens like me and people who get hurt in the system. And so I want to label this show Justice. When you're in the appeals court, you don't say judge, you say justice. Justice Dennise Garcia versus the public. Why did I frame it like that? Because they become tyrants when they're no longer ruling on law and they're ruling on their own personal decisions and merits and stuff like that. Not whatever they think, rather than what the law is. Judges are supposed to follow the law. When you vote for them, when they're assigned, they're given a rule book of laws. And they have to look at the law, and they have to look at what was filed before them, the grievance, the damages, the evidence, and say, okay, does it match this law? And if it doesn't match the law, there's no case. You need a law. When you go to, like Patterson, New Jersey, where I started my newspaper, when you go to file out a complaint, they give you a book, the rule book, and they tell you find a rule, and if you find a code and it says code section 485C2, and under that code, if somebody harassed you, it's harassment with the intent to cause you alarm and stuff like that, you use that code to file the complaint. But if you don't have a code, you don't know the code, they won't take the complaint. So judges are supposed to do that. Judges are supposed to look at the code, look at the law, penal code, civil code, and say, okay, under this law, you're supposed to file this complaint in 14 days. Under this law, you're supposed to swear under oath that you responded. Like in a case I'm doing against a judge and a lawyer right now, Victoria Warner, she just gave a half-butt answer to a complaint that was filed against her, never swore it under oath. Like a penalty of perjury, and never served it on the other person. And she's in default because of that, never answered to each specific claim. And the law directs those three things. You must answer to each claim, you must swear on your answer, and you must serve it on the person. You can't just file it in a court. Violated all three, so now we're asking the judge to default her and make her pay for the damage she caused. So anyway, this is what was given to Justice Garcia. She was given a complaint, and I'm going to mention two complaints. I'm going to shorten the show because it always gets to be long because there's a lot to say. So anyway, she was given a complaint against Kathy Stewart. And so I keep a quota here because she's still she's still on review. Where did she go? So, oh yeah, so we're going to bring her up. So we need Judge Purdy. So anyway, Kathy Stewart was sued for fraud, filling out false information and application. And this case was automatically assignment system went to Judge Monica Purdy of the 95th District. And she decided that she was not going to follow the law. I filed this document. And I'm going to tell you something about judges. Judges do not read this stuff. If you file documents before a judge, they're not going to read it. Do not think a judge is going to read your document. They're not reading it. The only person that I know in the world that reads documents is Judge Judy, because she'll come out in this thing and she says, Mr. Johnson, I've read your complaint. And so, but they're probably short complaints. Now, these complaints have to go with law. So it usually quotes the law and then it quotes the damage. It quotes the law and then it quotes the damages. And so it explains the damage. And that's what I do when I file one of these things. Like for due process violation, fraud. And it goes on to say what the due process and how it violates Article 1, Section 19, and this is the defendant's action on that. And then you have the impact on judicial conduct. So you have to write this to the court, but they won't read it. What they do is they call you into a hearing. So Judge Purdy calls me into a hearing, and this is going to go right to Garcia. And I went to the hearing, and she says, well, why don't we forget about all of that, because the other side was pleading jurisdiction. They were saying, hey, Judge, he has to reach 3 criteria in order to get the election case before you, for you to even hear it. Wrong. That is, Civil Code of Procedures does not interfere or cross the line to election code. And she was listening to them because there's 3 powerful attorneys and 1 pro se person on this side. So she's thinking, you know what? There are 3 attorneys, so I guess they win. This is the biggest problem we have in the court. When somebody shows up with a big attorney and you don't, or you have a new attorney, they usually don't follow the law. They follow the politics. So she was following the politics. And then she asked me, well, why? And I said, okay, you want to know why? I'll tell you why. What law? And I started reading the law out for her. On election code 585.6, on election code 414.595, you have to do this. And then you have jurisdiction under Civil Code of Procedure for election cases. And then because of these election cases, you have to expedite it. And I read out the law for her, didn't listen, went out, in and out. And I was like, okay. Not because you have the truth and the law in the court means you're going to win. Just remember that. You're not going to win with the truth. The person to really, look at that, that's Jesus Christ. You have the truth, but you don't win with the truth. You win with politics in these courtrooms. So anyway, she dismissed it, and it goes to whom? Her buddy. It goes all right over to Garcia. And so Garcia gets the case in the appeals court. And she agrees with Judge Purdy initially and says, hey, look, you can't file a case too close to the election. I was wrong. No, I was right, and they were wrong. And I was trying to tell them that I am right, and you guys are wrong. Now, just remember, this is a district court judge, Purdy, who's boasting about her whole history, and this is her buddy that they run under the same people. And this is the higher court is supposed to correct the lower court. So she gets the case, and she's sitting on it, and she's going like, well, yeah, she's right, and I'm going to give you till after the election to sue. So then I did a video like this. I don't know if she sees the video, but she holds the case back 5 days, then did her judgment, because they need a judgment before you appeal. So I appealed her after 5 days because she held it. An election case is supposed to be an expedited case. You got to drop all your other cases, the law says, and deal with it. She didn't. So she's facing a judicial conduct thing. She sends it to her friend. She agrees with her. And she says, if you don't like it, file an appeal. On the 5th day, when she entered the judgment, I grabbed it and then filed an appeal. Went to her. She agreed with her. But then, guess what happens? After she agrees with her, she changes her mind. And she says, oh, yeah, actually, I do have jurisdiction to hear the case, which makes her egg in the face because you didn't do your job. In the appeals court, you're supposed to review the lower court's decision, and you're supposed to look and say, let me see. The election code says you cannot use civil code procedure to trump election codes. Election codes law challenges are on its own merit. And she figured it out late because she didn't do her job before I went into the courtroom and read up on the law. They don't want to read up on stuff. They want you to explain it. And I was explaining it to her and she didn't listen. So anyway, she botched that, number one. Then there is a case with what's the other case? With my ex. So she comes back and she gets the case with the ex. Now, that case was sent by a lawyer whose photograph I don't have right now. Her name is Victoria Warner. She botched that case too. She was committing fraud. She was recalling the case constantly in court, just vexatious litigation constantly into the point where I went into a state of depression and anxiety. And even though my doctors asked to stop it, their lawyer, Victoria Warner, still pushed it. No, he has to come to court. He has to do this. I was dragged. I tell you something, divorce is one of the most emotional and mental dangerous effects that's going to be on you. And I was forced into that court. I tried to tell this judge this. I was being forced back into court. They were filing all kinds of illegal motions. And then I appealed. I appealed on November the 21st, I think. December, the case went to her. So now on December 2nd, she's got the case. So while she's got the case, they went and reopened it. The lawyer illegally reopened it, put a receiver to sell my home, all that kind of stuff. I'm not telling you this because I want you to know my business. I'm telling you this as a teaching moment. These are all teaching moments so you can learn and we can go through the judicial system and effectuate change. Remove these judges that are not listening to the law. So anyway, she gets this. And here's what she did. She ruled, now remember, the justices in the Supreme Appeals Court are supposed to review the lower court decisions. And in reviewing decisions, you got to match up the law that was supposed to follow. And if they didn't follow it, you send it back to them and you say, hey, you need to correct this. So when she made her ruling, she said, so here's the motion I filed against her to have her removed because she wasn't following the law. She was playing politics. And I even quoted the laws that she was not following in that case. And let's see, what else did I say? And it was an improper ruling in the appellate case. I really slammed her. And it was unauthorized action. And she refused to halt the trial court ongoing unauthorized action. Because when a case is in the appeals court, the trial court can't interfere with it. But they were in full force right now in the appeals court because of her. So I want to get that ruling that she made. Okay, so here's a ruling that she made that got her into trouble with this case as well. She said before the Court of Appeals of Emergency, there's an emergency motion I filed for the extension of time and notice of appeals interference with appellate jurisdiction. I was saying that this attorney, Victoria Warner, and my spouse was interfering with the appeal while she was sitting on it. Appellate request. Number one, a third extension. I was asking for a third extension because it takes a lot of time to respond to this and create all that stuff because you got to do by law, especially if you're pro se. That we take judicial notice of the improper filing and activities taking place in the trial court, that we caution the trial court and appellee counsel, which was Victoria Warner, against proceedings with hearings in the trial court. Now, this Victoria Warner is trying to get me for vexatious. I am telling them to stop it. Stop the case. Stop her excessive filing. I'm telling the appeals court that. But then she's trying to switch stuff, and because every time she hits me with stuff, she's trying to say it's my fault. It's his fault, I beat him. It's his fault, I kick him in the face. It's his fault, I grab his lunch money. That's basically what she was doing. And it goes that we impose sanctions against the appellee and her counsel, which is the ex and Victoria Warner. Here's what she did. We grant the motion to the extension that we extend the deadline of appellate's opening brief for June 11th. We deny the motion in all of the aspects. She knew that in the appeals court, there is a stay, it's called, they lose plenary power. And so her friend, her buddy, what's her name? Let's bring her up. Her buddy, Monica Purdy, the one we showed you before, she did the right thing. She dropped out. She says, once an appeal is filed, and she's got the appeal, I can't hear your case. But Victoria Warner, she kept on with the case. She kept on filing all kind of things for receivers. And I went and I told this judge, you can't do that. It's illegal. It is illegal for any court, the trial court, which is where that woman is in, to continue the case and work the case while Judge Garcia had it. And finally, in my appeal, I said that because I politically did not want her to be the chief justice of the appellate court. I went after her husband. I went after her. And this is the exact reason that I used to stop her in every social media platform from being the chief appeals court, is because she doesn't know what she is doing. And so that's why she got cornered with 2 cases that she botched. Number one was the case with Councilwoman Kathy Stewart. She refused to go and research the law and follow it. Look, if you're a judge, not everybody, a pro se person wouldn't know how to bring you the exact law unless we have an attorney advising us. But because of the intelligence system that we have today, which I think is going to take over a lot of lawyers, that intelligence system tells you what law is applicable in a case. So I'm able to take a case. I can take a case from any lawyer that's been presented to a judge and just run it through the system, and it will tell me if that case will prevail or not, and why it will prevail and why it will fail. And that's why you have to make these pleadings to these judges accurate. So I made an accurate pleading to Judge Purdy, and Purdy messed up that because I think she was politically motivated. 3 powerful lawyers on that side. And on this side, you have a pro se person. So that's how I think she ruled. But then when she says, go appeal me, I said, okay, I will. And I did. And then she got scared. And she knows now I'm coming after her because there was no way you're going to steal my election and me let you get away with it. And then she got it. She messed it up. And she got the case with Victoria Warner. And she messed it up as well by not ceasing them from following the rules of the appellate court, which specifically prohibits the trial court from taking action while the case is in appeal. And I got her on that too. 2 of these, motion to dismiss, recuse her out of the case, and so I kicked her out of the case. And Justice Garcia is up for election, I think, next year. I want to do a group of all the judges that I went to the law with, and asked them, look, here's the law. Don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel. I don't care what the other side tells you. This is the law. If it says you have to punish that attorney for continually, consistently pushing litigation just so she can jack up the bill, 400 here, 125 here, 2,000 here, and then say, hey, it's his fault, it's his fault. He's a vexatious person. Well, the records clearly show you're the one doing all the filings. He's just filing to defend. He's just filing an objection. He's just filing because you're calling him into court and he wants to get out of it. Somebody who does not want to get out of it is not vexatious. Somebody who's consistently filing as a lawyer, there are laws that I told her has to be stopped. And she decided, you know what? I'm not going to follow the law. I am just going to go by my appeal. I'll give you 30 days, but I'm going to let her continue to abuse you, defraud you, and abuse your rights. And I was like, no, we're not going to let that happen. And so this is what we're doing to reform the system. I have 6 judges in tow already. She's the 7th. She's the first she's a justice. So I have 6 judges. I'm not going to call your name today because I have file folders on each one of them and how they fail to follow the law, the laws they fail to follow, and the abuse that they allow to continue without following the law. If you have to find this lawyer $10,000 to stop her because you saw what she was doing, then you need to do that because the law requires it. And if the law requires something, the justices have to apply the law. not by all your opinion, not because you had a bad breakfast one morning, not because you had a fight with your spouse, or you're looking at your next election, and you're bored, you're scared, or whatever it is, and you see 6 attorneys on the other side, and you're looking to get help. Somebody donate to your campaign. It is based on law, and that's why I'm here. I've got 6 judges so far and 1 justice. We're going to put that out during the election season, and we're going to hit them really hard. So their opponent, let's just say they have a primary, can look at it and say, well, let's just use this. She doesn't even follow the law. She wants to talk about, I'm going to put this in here at the end. She wants to talk about her opponent. She attacked her opponent, and her entire campaign, and most of their entire campaign, is attacking their opponents. And she put out, if I can find it, literature on her opponent, talking about she's got 70% of this and her opponent's got 20% of this. Anyway, she did an attack on her opponent. There we go, Garcia. See this? This is how they win elections. They win elections by targeting their opponents. And what the public failed to do is to ask them questions based on law. You ruled in a case in Baudio versus Baudio. You ruled in a case on Baudio versus Stewart, but you were wrong on the law. You were wrong on the law on both cases because you were playing politics and opinions instead of researching the law that was sent to you by Mr. Baudio specifically to read it and see that he was right, but you were too busy doing something else. So this is how she wins elections. She wins elections by talking about her opponent got 20% of some kind of, I don't know, thing from the bar, favoritism from the Bar Association. And I don't know, what did she say? Garcia is a clear choice, right? She said she's 63%. Her opponent was 20%, and her opponent beat her. So this is the kind of nonsense that people do not want. They want judges who made the right decisions, okay? And she's not making the right decision, so I had her removed and recused based on law. I didn't do it on opinion. I did it on law, and I did it on what she was supposed to be following and the fact that she became politics, and that's how I got rid of her, a recusal. And I didn't even have to certify the recusal. I just sent it and asked her to personally, voluntarily recuse herself, and she did. The right thing, at least this time. And so any judge I go before and I show them the law and I waste 2 weeks to 3 weeks preparing this, running it by the system over and over again, asking myself, well, how do I apply this and how do I explain this to the judge? How do I do concealment of assets? This is one case, the concealment of assets and fraud belonging to the defendant to defraud him. You have to go by the unlawful concealment of assets. You have to explain that, the violation of the Texas law, and you have to explain the Texas law. And then when you go through all of this, the judge's guidelines and legal resources for the judges, the district attorney's office, the extension of concealment and how much it is, and then the civil misconduct, and then the collusion. Let's just one. When I do this kind of work, and Justice Garcia and Justice Purdy and this lawyer Victoria Warner, and I was crying, oh, I have immunity to do all this stuff. I have immunity to abuse the system. No, you don't. And I'm just going to give you a 1-2-page letter. Yeah, just shove that off for me. Meanwhile, she's working this case hard, filing all kind of frivolous stuff she shouldn't be filing. 400, 150, 2,000 in frivolous filings, but to answer a solid case and a solid pleading case, she's not going to do it. So I may even have to take that case to the justices again to say, I want you to review this. Review that I've explained all the laws and the facts, and here's just Gino, whoever gets the case, and they're saying no. I'm learning. And what I'm learning, I'm sharing. And it's very educational. And it's insightful, and everything you heard here today is not legal advice. It is for you to do your own research, and I am just going to load this. I'm not going to put the Texas Justice Review on it. Everything here is copyright 2025 without the express permission of the Quisarano Baldia. You cannot use it, but you can share it. You can share the video in its entirety, and if you're going to pluck any part of it, make sure that you use it in a manner in which is what intended. It is to expose judicial incompetence, corruption, and an intent to reform the system based on what I applied here. in this video. This is Serrano Keith Baldio. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.